Hello, everyone, and welcome to Zest with me, Shel Marie, the podcast that will take you on a journey from the hustle to the harmony, fueling your passion whilst finding your peace. Today, it's an absolute honor to welcome a truly remarkable guest, someone whose work is not only shaping the future of healthcare, but also advocating for women's leadership, innovation, and well-being on a global scale. Dr. Ewa is a powerhouse in data-driven healthcare initiative and real-world evidence generational, bringing nearly 2 decades of visionary, trailblazing executive leadership to the table. She's the kind of voice you want in the room when a mission is in deep impact and strategic excellence. And she's doing it all the while opening doors for the next generation of women visionaries. From serving as an editor-in-chief of a cutting-edge journal spotlighting 21st century women's leadership and innovation, to being recognized as one of the top 50 women leaders in healthcare technology, and even receiving the PMSA Lifetime Achievement Award. Wow. Her influence is undeniable, and her story, incredibly inspiring, which we are going to find all about today. Not just the mission and the impact, but the true incredible woman behind it all. Welcome, Dr. Ewa. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me here.
You are so welcome. Something that really stood out to me when I was reading your bio, and something as previously being in education and a lot of things being driven by data, I would really love your perspective on how you remain in because I think not just women, but sometimes we just have this inner knowing sometimes with things. And yes, we have to respect the data and, there's number crunching, but sometimes if I just think back to myself of say looking at a child when I was teaching as just the data, this isn't a true reflection of the child all the time. So I know we're talking about healthcare, but still this is dealing with people and really, really incredible impacts and changes in their lives. So I would just love to know your perspective on when you just have this knowing and this feeling, and potentially the data isn't always working towards you in that area.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, first of all, thank you for that question. Data, it can only be what it is if you understand what it came from. And I think very often we look at data and think that it's giving us the truth about everyone, and we make generalizations, whether it's in education, in healthcare, in any other place. I think, first of all, I always say, understand where your biases are lying, right? Where did you collect the data from? Mm-hmm. Do you have all of the representation that you require? Did you do this in the right way, meaning you collected via different modes of data collection? Did you review it? Did you look at any exceptions that might be happening when you look at the trends? And then understanding what it all means. Very often in healthcare, we say that the data is somewhat biased because we don't capture certain groups. A lot of the minorities often are underrepresented in data, especially in clinical trials. We often don't capture the rural areas where collecting data is somewhat more difficult. And then finally, we don't collect data, or we don't often have the representation of those who have no insurance. And in the United States, that's quite a large group. So when you understand when those, biases are lying or the data is not collected, you can then talk about it still in a context of what you're seeing, but underlying or discussing and representing the fact that it might not be necessarily representative of those groups not in the data set. The generalizations can be also made. If you have some representation of those groups, there's plenty of techniques that you can apply and ultimately bring those underrepresented groups into the fold and make more generalizations. But again, it all goes about what did you study, where did you collect the data, how did you collect the data, and what inherent biases are within the data that can ultimately impact how your recommendations or the outcomes measured can be discussed.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. And hearing your bio and all you're achieving and what you're being recognized for, which we should really highlight, because I feel, and this might just be my perspective, but I'd love your take on this. There's having the heart, there's having the passion, and there's having the voice, and it not always being heard. But I feel, my darling, thank goodness that you definitely are entering rooms, and you are not only just, as we tend to do with our heart, leading with our heart and understanding beyond the data, you're also wisely providing evidence, which we have to. We can't just walk in and just say, oh, this is how I feel. Like, no one's going to listen to us, which I think we can easily get pulled into, especially when it's the younger generation. But I love what you've just addressed there, because that, to me, and I would love your take on it, is really thinking outside the box. Because I think often people think creativity is, painting or dancing, but it's not. There's creativity in business, and that actually, I would love your, again, take on this, but that is a creative process to be able to say, listen, okay, we have this right now, but this actually isn't a raw representation of all the people or all the circumstances that we are discussing right now. And I think you have to have that creative mindset and think further and wider outside the box. So thank you so much for highlighting that. Obviously, if there's anything you would love to add to that, I would love to hear it.
Sure. I think I want to add a few things. First of all, lack of representation or under-representation is showing up in the boardrooms, it's showing up in the leadership. And for those of you who are listening, it's not only being creative, but being able to speak up. And I want to mention that for all of the young women who are feeling very often left out, it's not easy to speak up, but we have to take our position. Second of all, whether you are in the leadership levels already, in the boardroom, in the C-suite, however you are, and you are the underrepresented group, whether you're a woman of color, whether you are from different groups of minority or other groups that are underrepresented, you're always bringing a different perspective than everyone else will bring it. Very often, there won't be a seat at the table for you to speak up. So when you have that seat, cherish it and make more room for everyone else coming in. The other piece that I would say is, very often, sometimes when you are not welcome in a room, or when you're looking, whether it's the data, or when you're looking, your own perspective when it comes to sharing your experience or being invited to the room, or lack of it being invited to the room, I would say is create your own table. And I think we see, especially in the recent era, we see a lot of individuals pivoting to raise their voice and do exactly what they need. Someone told me a few years back that when you are not at the table, you're not invited to the table, create your own table and bring the people that you want, because I think that's the part of the pivoting, that's the part of speaking up. You are not saying I wasn't heard, you are saying I'm gonna fix it and I'm gonna find my own way. Is it gonna be easy? Absolutely not. Is it gonna be empowering? Whoever's looking behind you at you and you are doing this, that's what empowers them. And I think underrepresentation or reading data, we have a lot of financial data, we have a lot of healthcare data, we have a lot of data recently about women in their 40s and 50s leaving workforce because of burnout, because of feeling like they are not part of the system, and ultimately giving up. And I think that is horrible what we are seeing. And if we don't speak up, pivot, create our own tables, and find a way of being passionate, but also spreading the word and bringing others along who will be in the same situation or circumstance, I think we're gonna give up a lot that we can. And movements and progress only happens when people take it upon themselves and change the situation. And I do want everyone who's listening, think about it, regardless whether it's data, it's boardroom, it's even, family. Finding your own
Mm.
voice is very important.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for that. And this is the beautiful thing is this is why I really want to open people's minds because they'll read the title, they'll read the description and oh it's data and it's healthcare. Oh, we're not talking about this. If you hear, everything goes back not just to how you show up in business. You should be showing up the same in every single situation, which this incredible woman, this incredible leader, has just highlighted. And I really want to just share that little gem that you said again. I know you said it so beautifully, but even before I was even at a point where I was entering these rooms and having these incredible conversations with influential leaders such as yourself, I remember I was at a networking event in Dubai and it was free. And actually, it's like one of those really funny, ironic moments that is just coming up now with what you've just said. And I kind of wandered into it. As we know, we don't wander into anything, but I wandered in there, took a seat, everything was in Arabic, and I don't know why, but I decided to sit there and listen. And there's a reason to this story because there was a woman on the stage, okay? And I didn't know at the time she was the former president of Mauritius, Amina. And she said exactly what you said. And I sat there for 2 hours thinking, Shelly, why are you here? Why are you here? You don't understand what anyone's saying. Okay, there's incredible people in this room. And I was trying to listen to the translation and it was all muffled. And I was just sitting there thinking, why are you here? She got on that stage and she said exactly what you said. And that's all I needed to hear. She just said, we're not asking for an invitation. I obviously don't want to put words in her mouth, but how I heard it, which you've just so beautifully said, was we're not asking necessarily for an invitation. Just because you are not invited, and of course, you want to strive to be in those rooms and be invited and take your seat at that table. But if that table's full or you're not invited, she said exactly that. Make your own table, bring your own chair. So I really love that you just mentioned that. And even though I've heard that before, it was just such a breath of fresh air to hear that again and to know that this is the type of thinking we are really, really putting out there because it's super important, regardless of gender. Actually, the biggest thing I've learned, which I love that you highlighted, is the moment things started changing in my life was when I used this. Mm-hmm. This is so powerful in the right way. And we are always, I don't want to say healing, but we're always kind of healing, but in a way that's empowering, not in a way that's like reactive or fighting to be heard. Like in a way that's like, I know me, I know what I represent and what I'm bringing. So yeah, right. So with that in mind, because I have these moments where, we go off in this direction, but I think it's all super important. Editor-in-chief, okay? Thinking about that and the incredible impact you're creating there, what shifts are you seeing? Just as particularly we are focusing on females, even though like what we said, it's anyone's voices, anyone that feels like they need to be in the room. What real movements are you seeing right now in how women are showing up as leaders?
Yeah, great question. First of all, I want to mention I had this in May. I was asked to be the chief editor-in-chief for this wonderful Universal Journal of Women Entrepreneurship, Publishing, and Technology. And it's really a journal which allows women of all walks of life, as well as men. I do want to mention we have both men and women publishing, but coming in and sharing their stories. This can be more of an academic type of articles. This can be more of a story types of articles. We are open to different venues because we want to make sure that women's stories or the empowerment stories, the inspirational stories that everyone has, are being shared in an authentic way, that individuals are expressing what they think, how they feel it, and what lessons they want to be sharing. And I think this is very important to allowing a place where, whether you are a published author already, whether you are starting up your life, you are a patient advocate, you are a professor, you are a businesswoman, you're a businessman, or anyone else, and for that matter, that you can bring in the stories that matter to you and publish them in a way that gives someone else hope, gives someone else some lessons, and empower them to take the step. And I've been publishing since I was in grad school, and it is never an easy process. And I think now with so many platforms happening, it gives voice to those who have never been heard. And again, that goes back to our placement of allowing others to come in the way they are showing up. And yeah, as an editor-in-chief, I change a little bit. I provide some guidance and say, maybe you want to add this and this, because you don't want to have some formats that are somewhat that the readers can follow and be somewhat a little bit uniform, but without changing the message or the self that the author is presenting. So since I started doing this in May or so, we had incredible women who approached us wanting to publish on topics representing African American leaders, talking about cybersecurity, especially in the era of AI. We had leaders coming in talking about the types of leadership that are there and how we all engage in being a leader, and then ultimately talking about what are the trends in healthcare that we are seeing that impact women, especially because what we didn't discuss earlier is women are very heavily underrepresented in a lot of research in healthcare, believe it or not, although we are more than 50% of those who are taking care and those who are taking care of everyone else. So I think this provides us with the ability to really give the voice to those who are not, would never have the opportunity, would never feel like they should be publishing because they don't feel that they're professors or in an academic era or an arena or any industry that allows for that, and ultimately empowering others to take the next step. Because again, as we just mentioned, it's never easy to speak up, but sometimes if you are asked to do that and if you are empowered to tell your story the way it is, it gives you the ownership and it gives you the ability to come in the way to share the message that you want to share, and know that others will also appreciate that. So that's where I think having this journal and then ultimately collaborating with the individuals who are either at the conferences that this journal is part of or any other place, I think gives the opportunity to empower women, to uplift women, and allow them to have a venue without any judgment that they can share the stories that are important to them, knowing that someone will be able to listen, take it in, and be empowered or inspired by someone else's journey.
Wow. You said so many powerful things there. From a really clear but like not so always obvious thing of, we have so many options now, even if you don't want to use your voice, to write, to share. We have LinkedIn, we have so many, and you don't have to invest. There's so many incredible ways to share your voice now. So first of all, thank you for highlighting that. The other thing that I really, really love, which I think is really aligned with my vision for this podcast, is when you said about, okay, some people coming with the formal format and the certain delivery, and then there's others that come in with their storytelling. And I think this is super important because I think storytelling is really underrated. And just through someone sharing their story, like I always think back to, like, say your grandparents and just having a random conversation with them, and you receive so much wisdom, so much insight, so much inspiration, or even reflection on, okay, well actually what I thought was something like in my life right now that seems really big to me is actually compared to what they've just shared to me. You have an insight, you have empathy and a new perspective and outlook on life. So I also love that you mentioned that about storytelling, but then something really, really I felt powerful that you added on top of that, which is in your role, which just shows your heart, and where you're combining not only your professionalism but also your essentially your heart, your kindness, your heart-centered approach. Because what if I heard it right, you said was, okay, these people approach you and they might have this phenomenal story, and you, through your experience, have a way of taking it and almost not packaging it, keeping the essence of it and the rawity and the realness of it, but putting it in a way that people can really understand. And I think that is transformational. So I really want to honor you for that. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And that to me, just a visual in my mind, is where we have a hand and the hand is like, okay, and then another comes and says, I've got you. And this is what we need more of. We need more of this. And I don't feel like there's as much of it anymore. I think there was a lot more of it, but this competing and instead empowering. You, for example, what you shared earlier, I could be like, oh, I heard that before. No, we want to keep hearing this. We want to keep hearing this. We want to keep hearing from this woman to this woman to this man to this child to this whoever. We want these messages to keep moving, not it's mine. Nothing doesn't belong to us. Nothing. We are just here. We're coming in with the expertise and the knowledge we know, and we're delivering it in a way we think people can hear it. Some people might not hear your message, but someone else might say it in another way, and it lands. So thank you for that.
And I want to add something that you said related to women competing. I do think that, especially in the business arena, there's a lot of competition, and especially those women who had a very difficult time paving the road for us, which I think it's a wonderful thing that they've done it. But sometimes they don't realize they close the doors themselves for all of the other women to come behind. And I don't want to be using the proverbial leave the ladder behind you, but it's we have to do this. And I think what you just said about women should not be competing, women should be empowering each other. I think that joining hands and taking something that is raw, because let's be honest, if you are author or even doing podcast, not someone's going to be doing it for the first time. Someone will step into this and take the chance, right? Take the chance. So if we are not kind to each other, if we are not going to help each other, then we will never move everyone behind. And I think to all of the women listening, especially those who are in the positions where they can help others, help.
Yes.
Because we can't make the change if we do not only help ourselves, but also help those behind us, and keep continuing the trend. Give it forward. Give it forward, because it's where we often fail as women, and men do it very well. We get so wrapped up into I am better than everyone else, and we don't help some other people. If you got to a certain level, doesn't matter what level you got to, any story, any experiences you have, you do not know whom you can help to get help through strategy, help with feelings, help getting to the next level. I think we also always have to realize that we have to help each other and bring people along. There's nothing wrong with competing, but look how men are doing that. They compete, but they bring their bodies along, right?
Yeah.
We need to do the same thing. We can still in a healthy way compete with each other, and I would say not compete, but push each other to the next level, challenge each other to get to the next level, whatever that might be, and bring the people along with us on the journey, so everyone can benefit and grow whatever in whatever way they need to grow to get to the next level, and whatever that level is. And the last thing I want to say is, we very often as women judge success by ways that are either financial, either by having a family, or doing something that it's a very specific way. Success, and I want to mention this one thing: success is not defined by any of that. It is really how you are defining. And life, it's a long journey. That's because today you're making a choice to stay home and be a mom. that doesn't mean that in the future you cannot be a politician, or you cannot be a business woman, or you cannot be in a boardroom, and vice versa. That's because you are right now focusing on your career doesn't mean that you cannot pivot to do something else. And individuals, and I would ask women, stop being as critical to each other as we often are. Be kind to each other and respect the decisions that others have, because that's the only way we can help each other, if we understand where they're coming from, and give that hand and say, I get, today, this is your priority today. And help them with that priority and show them other ways that they can potentially succeed, but also realize that we are all in different spaces in our lives, and we have to be kind to each other and not define success as one thing or another. Because I do worry sometimes that women in business look down on women who have kids and staying at home, and vice versa. We can't have it. This is all part of the entire journey that we have to support and support each other in it.
So much. I'm excited to listen back to all of that and absorb all that again. That was really powerful what you said. And a really strong visual that came to my mind as you were saying that is going back to that table. It's almost like she's earned her place on that table, that seat, and she's gonna do what she can to stay there. Remember what it took for you to get into that room and sit at that table. And I think rather than seeing it as competing, see it as mentoring. Do you know, I have something, and actually this woman, before we go judging, has something that I could learn from as well, because we can learn from each other, because we all have different things. Like, wow, look, she's phenomenal mom, and this and this and this. How does she still show up and still manage everything else? So there's something we can always take from all areas of life, all different people. So I love what you said. Thank you so much. Really, really, really powerful. I want to be really mindful of your time. So one other thing I would love your take on is balancing. So having the balance before the burnout. I think this is something that I think will help a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a tough topic, and I alluded that earlier in the discussion here. Women in their 40s and 50s are exiting workforce at a much faster rate than men do, and that's because of the lack of comfort or that they are seeing that doesn't necessarily represent where they are in their careers. Very often, women in their careers take care of their kids, so there's clearly some impact on their trajectory. But as you get older, it's also then taking care of the parents, right? So there you are changing one role to another, caregiver continuously moving forward. But the other piece is also women are very often in the business world treated with a little bit more harsher than a man will, and we have to prove ourselves way more. And there's a continuous scrutiny on what we are doing. And I think that burnout, it's not only that it's physical, it's more mental. How do you deal with this? And I want to mention to all of you women listening, you are not alone. I have struggled with that as well, and this year for me has been definitely one that I have to think about where I am from my perspective, and rethinking, re-challenging my own thinking. But the one thing that I would say is always remember that value comes in regardless where you are in your journey. Sometimes we have to take that step and say, you know what, I need time to take the sabbatical, whether the sabbatical is given to you by your work or it's a sabbatical that you enforce on yourself, and you take the time for yourself and go do hiking, go sit at the lake, go sit at the beach, whatever that might be, and really disconnect. The other piece that I was listening to someone else's podcast is that knowing, categorizing your work separately from your leisure and your family, and making sure that those boundaries are so thick that when you're taking even the 5 minutes to be by yourself, that work doesn't enter. That is very difficult, but it's extremely doable. And someone said, some people require to be on vacation for 2 weeks, but that's very unrealistic, because it makes it a little bit harder for our brains to work like that. So can you take longer weekends, but then detach yourself from the work and totally put on the other side, close the door, and go with a brain that is only focusing on the current moment. The next piece that I would say is we don't often think about education the older we get. We have to keep educating ourselves, and the education can be as simple as learning how to meditate or how to take deep breaths. I've been studying a lot about thinking about where are the parts of your body that you touch in order to help you breathe better or you help relax. And I think that is part that can help us with the burnout as well. Understanding the natural parts that our bodies have and how we take stress in and how it represents, how it presents to ourselves in the point of stress, and how can we ultimately remove it. And the final piece I would say is know that you are not alone. You are not alone. That's why many companies have now mental health days that you can take. If your company has that mental health days or it's a sick day, take those. There is no shame in it to do this. Reach out if you need to have professional guidance. Reach out to them. Go and have a session. There's plenty online sessions that individuals can take. They can go and meet a therapist. I think we all need a place where we can be, what I would say is, felt unjudged, and we can say what we think without anyone questioning the thoughts in our heads. Because being a woman in these days with everything happening and continuously needing to prove ourselves, it can be a lot, and can be a lot for many women. So I would say is, do I have the perfect strategy for it? No, there are days that is tougher, there is another, but then I try myself to do certain things and make sure that I can detach. And the last thing that I want to say is, as I was thinking about burnout, I was also thinking about living and you hear a lot of it, about it, living the life of gratitude. Do a lot of this. And we don't do this as women, especially because we don't celebrate our achievements ourselves, but we also don't think about what we have already accomplished. Because everyone tells us that don't look back, don't sit on your awards and the accomplishments, move forward. But I think we do occasionally have to go back and see the hardship that we went through and we survived it, talk about everything we have accomplished, and then ultimately know that when a hard day is coming in, it's okay to cry. It's okay to break down. It's okay to have a day when you are not 100% yourself. As someone told me once, allow yourself to cry in the pillow, but the next day you wake up and you keep fighting and you keep doing and you keep going forward, because that's where you know that you are dealing with everything, but you're also allowing yourself not to sit on it and allowing yourself to move. Sometimes even waking up, it's very difficult, and taking the shower, but do it, force yourself to it, because I think the more you do that, the better it is. And the final thing that I just wanna say is that as we women right now, there's a lot of talk about women burnout. And companies also need to realize this, and they need to help support women. They have to give the platform where women can feel that they don't have to work 80-hour weeks, that they can do like their colleagues, 40 hours is just enough, that they have that ability, mental ability. We as men just need to especially remind them, it's okay to take the day off. It's okay to focus on your family. And I think we as leaders are as important in the burnout of women, guiding them and giving them allowance. And I don't think people think about it, but if you're a leader and you tell someone, take the day off, your son or your daughter is sick, your parents are sick, someone came over to you, or you just want to have a day so you can enjoy, take that. And we have to tell our employees and remind them, you're going on your vacation, you enjoy. I'll take care of everything else. And give them that mental permission. So when they go on that vacation, they know then when they come back, they don't have to worry about it. When they're going to come back, that something is going to be bad. Because I think we don't talk about it. Many women don't want to take time off. That's because that mental component of not knowing what is happening while they're out and what's going to happen when they come back, what's going to be. So it's not only on us. I think we all have to, as women, have to take responsibility, like with everything, but it's also on the organizations and the leaders to remind women that it's okay to take time off, and tell them, allow them, tell them, you go on your vacation and you come back refreshed and I will take care of everything else while you are out. And I think that these are very powerful words that we take for granted very often.
That's so important, and I agree, because that is essentially the heart-centered leadership, that actually it's not always about the numbers and the roles and what you know the agenda is of that day. It's actually holistically looking at what is happening within your organization, within your business, and like what you so wisely said, knowing that person, and that person isn't going to take that day, but that person really needs that day. And then from, you know, a really not sympathy but empathetic standpoint, approaching them in a way that's empowering, not in a way that makes them feel like they're doing something wrong. And something that really strongly came to my mind, particularly for females, which is something you mentioned that I spoke about previously in a podcast issue. We won't go too much into it, but we have to remember, particularly as women, we have cycles, and this is not something that is taken into consideration. So what rightly said, some days we don't know why, our hormones all over the place and we just feel like crying. And I remember walking into work once and just saying, listen, I'm feeling very emotional today, and just not being judged for it. I don't know what's going on in my body. I don't really have to explain to you what's going on in my body. I think we can just be wise enough and clever enough to work it out here, everybody. But remember, particularly as women, and it's not a gender thing, but it is a gender thing, we have particularly monthly cycles, and this is a huge thing, you know, to do with our lives. And okay, maybe when we are more in charge of our own timetabling, we might pick that period to do that meeting or something on our own agenda. But sometimes we don't have that option. Okay, you're on stage on that day at this time, that's what's been picked for you. Or you're going to have this meeting that right now, I can't even think what's happening in my body and I have to concentrate on this. So you just said so many really amazing things, not only from you've addressed so many different perspectives as well, of people that, you know, are within the business and people that need to be looking around the business or above the business or within the business, whatever we want to call it. So I appreciate you so much, and your time and your wisdom and everything you shared. And I will definitely be looking up your journal. Something that I always do is I never look up much about the person, as I explained to you beforehand, because I really just want to honor you and your journey and just be almost childlike, wondering, inquisitive. But I will definitely be checking that out and putting it in the notes for everyone else. You already so beautifully shared so many incredible words, but something that I just love my guests to do, just as a final thing, just whatever comes through, if you feel like there is something particularly right now that someone listening would just really benefit from hearing, what would you tell them?
I would say yes, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, and if you want to do something, you just do it. And bring yourself to the place where you are okay trying out. One thing that I am trying this year, and I tell everyone, when an opportunity comes in, take it, especially the one that you are the most afraid of, that is giving you a lot of anxiety, because it is nothing more inspiring and empowering for yourself is to overcome that fear and come out on the other side. And don't worry how you're gonna do it. Sometimes it's not very pretty how we overcome it, but being able, when someone gives you some opportunity, take it. Don't think about it. I read Mel Gibbs' book, and there's the 5-second rule. I would say yes, when something comes to you, in 5 seconds, decide to do it and just do it. And don't worry about anything else, because it's all, every journey, every opportunity is an ability to improve yourself, to grow, and quite frankly, meet other people, because if you don't take any chances, if you don't do things that you are worried about, that you are afraid about, that you're anxious about, what life is if we don't try, and we don't try the hardest things that we never thought we could actually do.
Oh, wow. Really incredible. Again, I could listen to you all day. And just to add a little bit to that, because I love what you said with that 5 second rule. What I've found as well is that if it's actually not in alignment and not for you, it will all actually work out the way it's supposed to anyway. So I love that. Just in you not even going for it to start with, how do you even know? So grab it, and whether it's a success or it's a lesson or a blessing, whatever we want to call it, you will learn something. So I love that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You have been an absolute pleasure, and I will definitely be listening back to this podcast and grabbing all those incredible gems that you have shared. Wow, thank you. Really, really, I mean it from my heart to yours, for your time, for your wisdom, for your expertise, your knowledge, and I'm excited for you and all that you're achieving. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, and those listening, thank you for listening.
And all her information will be in the show notes. You do need to contact this lady, even if it's to get in that journal, which is an opportunity. Remember, 5 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, go, grab it and contact this lady. Amazing, amazing, amazing.